Welcome to the Pink Lady Posse podcast, where women over 50 take a fresh look at living, toss out tired stereotypes, and say a big heck yes to what's next. I'm your host, Sandy Parker, and around here, we challenge limitations, rewrite the story on aging, and reclaim our power, pleasure, and purpose. Why? Our next years are not about a decline. They are our big reveal. Sandy Parker Martinez here with the Pink Lady Posse podcast, and I'm here with Carla Taylor. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you.
And I'm going to give you just a little track record of how we know each other, because what I respect the most about her is Life as Lived by Carla Taylor, right? But where we met, there was a network of community leaders, and she was a leader in that network of community leaders. And we just hit it off right away. And I kept watching, and then I learned about her story, and I'm like, okay, wait, this is going to be the start of 26. Let's get ourselves set on life isn't perfect. Things happen to good people, and there is light in the future. So not to start out dark, but I do want to start out with really the weight of what she's experienced. And so if you don't mind, will you just tell us? Oh, but I want to say, for a bio purpose, she's writing a book we're going to talk about called Career Happiness, following being intimidated about being an author. So, I mean, holy cow. Here we go. Carla, tell us about life learning about a brain tumor.
Yeah, I mean, and first of all, doing life as Carla Taylor. If you hear my dog barking, this is life happening. We're recording because he was just barking.
I have one too, so no problem.
So yes. Well, first I want to say you are such a delight. And of course we connected. Everything that you do and everything that you are is so aligned with my belief system and the way that I want to show up in the world. And you very much inspired me from the moment I first met you or came across any of your things. I love how you show up in the world and how passionately you pursue helping so many others fully live every moment they're still alive.
Thank you so much.
And I shared with you earlier that one of the most amazing people I've ever met on this planet died this week. And she truly lived a life where she cherished every single moment, and she knew that the little things were the big things, and she absolutely loved so passionately and so fervently and always checked on everyone around her. Her name was Laurel, so the Love Like Laurel hashtag is what I've been using just to inspire me and hopefully others as well, to that warm blanket kind of love that you send out to give someone a hug from far away. Like, it's that kind of love.
Great.
And that is what life is all about, every single moment. And you mentioned my brain tumor. She's actually part of the reason why my story is not ending yet, but it didn't end last year, a year and a half ago. So I had no real symptoms, nothing that I was noticing, because I'm actually 54 years old. And I was
going on 30.
I was going through menopause. We'd just been through COVID. My dad had died. So I had grief and COVID and menopause and all these reasons for my brain to not seem to be working quite right, but nothing that was outside of what I thought everyone else was experiencing. So I didn't have any clues that I might possibly have a brain tumor. And I'd actually, the year before, met Marusha, who connected us for the first time in person. She and I had known each other online for 6 years. And then this other woman named Sharonata, who had a brain tumor, and she was sharing her story, and she was showing us, she lifted up her hair and showed us this pretty gnarly looking scar that I was like, wow. Like, as she's sharing all this, I was thinking in my head, I can't imagine ever going through anything like that. I couldn't do it. I couldn't imagine it. And I was like, thank God I haven't, had to do that. And nobody in my family ever has. So I didn't think it was in my realm of possibility to experience here on Earth. So anyway, almost exactly a year later, I had just met this man named Philip, and he and I were talking, and I had a headache, and it was not even an unusual headache. It was one I was expecting because I was doing this metabolic reset program, and I always got a 1 to 2 day headache. And this time it was lasting till day 3. And he was like, oh, go to the ER and get a CT scan. I was like, why would I do that for a headache? And he said, well, my dad and brother both died from brain tumors, so please just go. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I didn't go. I was like, no, I don't want to go to the ER when I'm just tired and have a headache. I just want to go to bed and try to sleep it off and not sit in an ER for 12 hours, you know? And so I didn't go. And 2 days later, I still had a headache. It's now
Mhm.
day 5. I'm supposed to be driving out to go get my daughter at college. And I'm like, I really probably shouldn't drive, you know, with this headache. I should. He kept asking, have you gone? Have you gone? I was like, okay, I'll go. Well, the other thing that happened, my cousin Laurel, she had breast cancer, had gone into remission. And that same week, as I'm having these conversations with Philip, she collapsed at home when she was supposed to be going to a basketball game to be honored as a breast cancer survivor. And she didn't have breast cancer returned at that time, but when they did a scan of her brain, she had 23 brain tumors in her head. And so it was that information coupled with Philip's urging that when I went to the ER and the doctor said no, he said, you don't need a CT scan. I said, well, I've had a 5-day headache and, you know, I really just want to get one. He's like, no, you don't need one. He said, do you have any other symptoms? And I said, no, not really. And he said, well, come back in a month or two if you have any other symptoms, but you don't need one. And I said, can we do it anyway? He said, you're not going to find anything. Like he kept telling me no.
You're
And
kidding me.
if I hadn't had those two factors, and I know it was Laurel's part of the story that pushed me
Mhm.
to still insist that he give me one. I didn't think I had a tumor. I did not. I just thought I need to do my duty of due diligence to find out for sure that I'm okay because I know Philip's going to ask and because you never know, like with Laurel. And so thank God I did because he found out, I found out, we found out that I had a grapefruit size, huge brain tumor that was pushing across my left frontal lobe into the right. It had grown everywhere it could possibly grow. Probably they said for about 8 to 10 years, but at that point, it was 1 to 2 months away from killing me. So if I had listened to that doctor, I would be dead. And I forgot how much I was actually connecting with Laurel before and after the surgery. And I sent her a few videos, the early few days of recovery, where I don't actually remember a lot of what I did then. And I was also like feeling, because my brain, you know, I've had a very successful surgery. And I mean, there were so many miracles that week that happened. Even the surgeon that I had is like one of the top surgeons that people have to wait for months to get into that just happened to be on call on the weekend when I went. And just all of these different things that happened that week and you can't see my scar. Even the hairdresser or the lady who did the EKG or whatever things on my head, who's seen other people after surgery, they couldn't find it looking for it. That's how good the skill of the surgeon was.
Okay, so let me just catch up. So you go to ER, you see a brain tumor, and then do
Massive.
you have like surgery right then
Right
or
away. He said you need to go by ambulance to the neurosurgery department right now. And I thought he was kidding. I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I didn't have time to process anything. Like, I
yeah.
didn't have it immediately. I had it within the next like 3 to 4 days, but I still didn't have time. And it was Easter week and just all of these things. And so my family still, like, none of us have even fully processed it. I don't think even now because it happened so fast and we didn't know anything and they couldn't tell me anything about what it would be like after because they're like, well, every brain is different. I'm like, okay, I understand that. And what are some things I might experience? And they're like, well, just, you know, maybe talk to some other people, but we can't really tell you because it's going to be different for everyone. I'm like, that is not helpful.
So
I
you
had
have
no
the
information.
surgery and they remove the brain tumor?
Completely. Yes.
And then what is recovery like? What is
Well,
life
it's different for
like?
everyone. But one of the hardest things about it, a lot of people have ongoing, some people can never drive or work again, or they lose eyesight or just all sorts of things. So I'm so blessed and lucky not to have any of those physical things. But even without that, I had extreme fatigue, like to the point where I couldn't even stay awake for more than 1 to 2 hours at a time at the beginning, not at the very beginning. The first couple of months, I was on steroids for the swelling of the brain. So when I was on the steroids, I had tons of energy. I thought I was fine. I still moved to Florida. Like I thought I was fine and I'm good. I'm gonna go and do this because I was already in the process of moving to Florida. That was another whole big story, but I'd already sold my house and everything before I found the brain tumor. So I was already in the process of moving and I thought I could still go because I was feeling so good initially, but I looked good. I could talk, I could walk and talk, but I actually wasn't very functional. And people in my own family It was Easter week. My sister had just had her own surgery. She was actually in surgery when I went to the ER or when I went to to the ER and didn't even tell them that I was going to be there because I thought I was just going to get a clean bill of health. And so it was lots of stuff. And so people were like, "Oh, you seem fine." My kids are trying to help get the house ready for the sale. Like there was so much going on that people weren't present to see me in the room with me. And so I actually was getting extremely dehydrated. The other awful thing that happened, everything at the hospital was fantastic until the last day. And they released me to myself, which you're not ever supposed to discharge a patient, especially a brain surgery patient. And I had all these medications that I needed, and nobody in my family heard any of it. The doctors warned me that the next 4 weeks are critical, but especially the first 5 days when you get home, nobody heard that. So I knew it, but no one else knew it. And I literally almost died in those first 5 days when I got home because I got severely dehydrated and a lot of things were going wrong. I couldn't even use a fork. Like I was not doing well, but I could feel my senses were like times a million is how I was describing it. So I felt like I could hear my mom 2 stories up with the door closed in a carpeted bedroom whispering on the phone as if she was sitting next to me. I'm like, "Mom, I'm trying to sleep," and like it was just crazy. But I could sense and feel everybody's energy so clearly. And the only thing I could do, I found out I didn't have a way to regulate my brain or have a filter, emotionally regulate. And so I couldn't control any emotions. I could only reflect back what people were bringing to me. So if they came in with a lot of love, I was like gushing out love to them. So when I was doing these videos for Laurel, I'm giving her back her level of love in these videos. I've watched them now this week and I'm like, wow, like that's amazing actually. um, but if people came in like my mom, she's terrified and stressed because it's her daughter going through the surgery, her other daughter in another surgery, her son's doing all these, like he's got his dogs and like there are all these things going. She's trying to get the house ready for Easter. She's totally triggered and traumatized by my dad's death, which she still hasn't processed. And I'm the first person coming home from the hospital and I'm sitting in his chair. So she's like,
My gosh.
this kind of energy. So I was like this with her. And I kept trying to explain to her, I can only reflect back. Like, if you don't want me to yell, you can't come in with that kind of energy. But I couldn't explain it very well, of course. And she wasn't understanding any of that. So it almost destroyed our relationship, actually, most of my family, because they didn't understand. I kept trying to tell them because I was very aware. I've done so much leadership training and emotional intelligence and all those things. I knew exactly what was happening, but I couldn't control it. And I had no filter. So anything that came into my brain came out of my mouth. And what was coming in my brain was whatever was being fed to me. So it was very challenging to say the least. And then even after all of that, and I finally got down to Florida, and then I thought I needed like a week to sleep after moving and all these stresses that I had once I moved down here. But I couldn't, like I said, hardly function because now I'm not taking the steroids anymore. And I had to sleep every day, all the time. Like I'd be up for maybe an hour or two, like I said, and then I'd have to sleep again. And I thought, is this the Florida heat? Is there something wrong with me? Like, what is happening? And I, of course, now know that your brain actually has to not just be resting, but asleep to heal. So, of course, my brain's going to need a lot of sleep. But I didn't understand that. And they don't really tell you that. And the great news is at my 3-month follow-up MRI, they had told me because it was grapefruit size. It was a big, huge tumor. And it was pressing my brain all the way down. And so they said my brain may never fully recover all of that space, but it would still function fine. It just, if I see in a next MRI that it's still compressed, that's why it doesn't usually go back all the way. In 3 months, 90 days, mine was 100% back. The doctor was stunned. So apparently all that sleep was a really good thing. But yes, he was like, I actually have a picture of his hands going like this because he's like, it's like it was never there.
Now
And
you're
it is
in
astounding.
Florida.
Yes, so no, I'm in Florida. Yes.
And you're healing, and you
Mhm.
couldn't work because you can't.
I thought I would be able to work, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get on a Zoom call, let alone try to lead one. Like I couldn't handle any stress or input. Sensory input was just too much for me for a long time. So yeah, I couldn't.
Unbelievable. Now
And since then,
I'm looking at you, and I'm going, all right. Now she has a brain tumor. It's a miracle. The doctor was on call. The family doesn't know. She doesn't really know. A year and a half she can't work. What the heck happens to your sense of identity or your
Oh
sense
my
of
gosh.
future, or
That's
do
such a
you
good
know who
question.
you are
It
anymore?
was devastating. I mean, I was terrified. I thought I might not ever be okay. I might not ever be able to work. And not only could I not work, and I had actually, I'd done enough leadership coaching and transformational things and all sorts of things. So I knew not to tie my identity to my work. I knew like, I felt like I'd fully learned that lesson. However, I didn't know the lesson of the identity, like, who are you if you can do absolutely nothing for anyone else? I couldn't give somebody a word of encouragement. I couldn't be there for my kids and help them with their emotions, which I was used to doing and they were used to me doing. And now I was just like one of them in reaction. And like I felt like nothing but a huge burden on my entire family. Couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't even drive for a while. Like, and I'm like, why did God save my life for this to be my life? Like,
So,
why
what
am
did
I
you
here?
find out in terms of identity when you can do nothing? Because that is horrifying. Like,
It
is there
is.
even purpose to a human being that
It
can't?
didn't feel like it.
It didn't.
It didn't feel like there was any reason for me to still be here. I was really, really, I mean, there's not even words for the emotions that I was feeling. I felt so hopeless. I felt so lost. I felt so confused. Like, why did I have all these amazing miracles to just now be taking so much from everyone around me and burdening them? And they were overwhelmed. And, it was just, it was too much for them.
Now,
And I knew it.
I want to stop and say to anyone watching this on video, which I hope you are, because you can see her beautiful face, and you can see in that moment when she was lost and hopeless, there was a future.
I didn't
There,
know that though.
I know, but it
Yeah.
is helpful to see someone who didn't know and has now experienced that there was, even when you couldn't see it.
Right. And it wasn't a few days. It wasn't even a few months. It went on and on and on. And
Ugh.
there's nobody who can understand or support you in that. And even my faith was so shaken and I got scared, actually. My faith was never stronger right before, during, and immediately after. I didn't understand even in that moment why God got me through the surgery so incredibly well and everything went so well. And then I came home and I literally felt my body shutting down. I knew that I was dying. And when I was telling my family, and they're like, Carla, you had brain surgery, you're fine. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not okay. And they're like, oh, you're just not aware. Like, they didn't take me seriously. And I knew. Now, I don't know that I maybe was dying, but I definitely know I was severely dehydrated. I wasn't able to function. I was spilling all over myself. They weren't really noticing these things, because everybody's doing their thing around me. They're in the room with me sometimes. And then I started kicking everybody out of the room because I was reacting too much to all the energy of the people around me. So I mostly needed people to not be around me so I could just heal. But I came to the very edge of death. I was saying I know what exactly how I will feel at the end of my life because I felt all of those things. So the biggest thing I wanted to do was to, like, what are my final words I want to give to these different people? Who do I want to talk to? All these things. And so I just started sending messages and connecting with people. And I even connected with my stepson out on the commercial diving rig. He was out in the middle of the ocean and he was so grateful for the call that we had. I connected with another friend while he was in the Tokyo train station. I was like reaching out to people all over the world. I was doing everything I could to say the things that I wanted to say to them before I left the earth. And then the biggest thing, because my family wasn't taking me seriously, I wrote letters to all of them figuring, well, if I die tomorrow or the next day, you'll find these letters. And then all of a sudden, I'd forgiven so many huge, big things, big traumas that had happened in my life. I'd forgiven all of those. And I'd really learned a lot about forgiveness through that. But all of a sudden, all the little things, I was like thinking of the Lord's Prayer and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to forgive every little thing so that God will forgive every little thing for me because he's going to only forgive me as much as I've forgiven. So I started like and this was not okay for sure. I was out, like I would go out on LinkedIn and I'm like, okay, did this really happen? And I would do, you can do at and see somebody's name. And I'd think of something and I'd do at, I'm like, okay, that was real. That's a real person. And so then I was saying things very inappropriately publicly because I didn't know how else to get to them because wasn't thinking clearly, obviously. And so that was my only way to communicate. So I was saying to some pretty important people in the city, calling them out basically on terrible things they'd done to me in business and saying, I forgive you for that. It wasn't good. And at some point I realized that. And so I did ask my family to take my electronics away so I couldn't communicate, but then I couldn't communicate. So then I was like, but anyway, so this is the fifth or sixth day. I don't believe I'm going to make it to the next morning. Friends hadn't even come to visit me because it was Easter weekend. It was also spring break week. So people weren't even around. And so I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I would make it till morning. And I'm sitting there by myself. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I have YouTube on, like on some sort of a relaxation video or whatever. And I'm not playing music, but all of a sudden the song In Christ Alone came on. And I don't know if you know that song, but
I
it's a
love
beautiful
that
song. It
song.
used to be on the radio all the time. It was my anchor song that got me through my divorce and lots of really hard years. And I have been telling my family for years, I want that song played at my funeral. I wasn't listening to music and that song started playing. And I knew Jesus knew that was my song for my funeral. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am dying right now. It's happening now. And that's how I felt. Like I didn't feel like I was going to make it. And so I started thinking how sad it was. 5 years earlier, my father, or 4 years earlier at that point, had died during COVID, and he was able to come home from the hospital. That was our miracle, not that he lived, but that he was able to come home and die with all of us. And he had his entire family all surrounding him and really got to have that legendary leader death that he deserved, which is another whole story. But I had nobody. I didn't even have my kids there. Nobody was there. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's sleeping. And I'm like, how sad is it? I'm having this little pity party for myself, in the first part of this song, thinking how sad it is that this is how I'm ending my life and I'm not even going to get to see anybody I love before I go. And about halfway through the song, I realize it's about halfway through the song and I'm like, okay, I need to shift gears and I need to now like prepare myself for what's about to happen. And so I started thinking forward and all of a sudden I realized I'm sitting in my dad's chair. And since he passed, I always thought I would really feel him and connect with him because I did a lot when he was in the hospital. I felt like I could connect with him. And I didn't hardly at all. I've barely felt him, especially at the beginning of the first couple of years after he died. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel like his presence, but the sense of, I felt this massive, immense wave of love and nothing but love, no other emotion, just love. And I felt like my dad was like hugging me and telling me how much he loved me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get to see my dad again. I started to get really excited. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to get to meet Jesus. And I got so excited. And it's a immense wave of love. So now joy. So it's only love and only joy, but the two of them now mixed together, nothing else. That's all I felt was just massive love and joy. And I was like so excited to see what was next. And then the song ended and my life didn't. And I, somehow eventually fell asleep the next morning. Early in the morning, a friend of mine came to visit very early. She saw how bad I was doing. That's when she got me some help. That's when I got to go to the doctor. That's when I got rehydrated, all the things. But it taught me exactly what I'm going to think and feel at the end. And several weeks later, when I could drive, I went to a small group that I'd been in, and there was a woman there that had never been there before. And I was sharing this story. And that woman said, I actually almost died from cancer a few years ago, and I had the exact same type of moment. And I felt the exact same two things. And we were like, wow, that's incredible. Why doesn't everybody know this? Like, who would be afraid of death if you knew it's going to be awesome?
Oh my gosh.
I feel like that's actually the biggest gift that I've gotten out of all of this is I am not afraid when it is my time. I know I'm going to be filled with love and joy. I know that. I'm looking forward to that. And there's still a lot more I want to do while I'm here.
Well, I don't even know where to go from here, but let me just say that where you are going is you are going to be an author of your
Yes.
second book
Right. Yes.
about career happiness.
And it's 3 o'clock
And
right now. So let me just say that real quick. So
Okay.
I already published a book. Because I had the published book, I ended up meeting this professor who's a top professor of AI 2 years ago. He actually called me while I was in the hospital just after the doctor told me I had that tumor. Like I hadn't even gotten to the ambulance part yet. And he calls me and he's like, Carla, we finally got funding for the project. It's starting next week. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, not even telling him where I am or what's happening because I don't understand. I'm thinking I'll be fine in a week. I should be out of surgery by then. Like, I didn't know. And so I didn't tell him. Turned out he was wrong anyway. It was a different project that got funded. And so, the project kept getting delayed. And at that point, I felt like, okay, maybe this is why it was delayed because I didn't know I was going to have a brain tumor and need all this recovery time. And so I wasn't pushing it forward since the surgery, and I finally told him about it, but I hadn't even told him that at the beginning. But I was like, okay, the timing will be whatever it needs to be. Well, now fast forward to now is 2 years later of when we first started working on it, a year and a half after the surgery. And I did write the entire book actually after the surgery. So starting in June of this year, I was able to write that book, get it done completely in about 4 months, and just found out that he's basically not going to be doing the things that he promised all this time. And even the publisher came to me and told me, "I think you should publish without him." And I thought I needed him for the credibility, especially because as a college course, if a college professor is a co-publisher, that's way more credibility. Who am I without him? But I've gotten so much feedback from the publisher and other people who've known me that they're like, Carly, you don't need him. You don't need that credibility. I've been an adjunct professor. I've done all sorts of things myself. I wrote this book 100% by myself. Like he didn't actually help me. So it's a good thing now that I'm not going to have to split commissions with him. He was never going to do anything anyway. At this point, I can't foresee that he's going to suddenly change after 2 years. But anyway, so yes, there's lots of hope going forward in the future. But yes, thank you
Well,
so much for asking these questions. I really appreciate it. I know
well,
it's important
before
for
you
me to share
go,
my
I
story.
want one sentence
Yes.
that you would deliver to any woman listening or watching to this. Just
So
one
yes,
sentence.
thank you. And the one point I did want to make, I felt like this was the message that I received. Traumas are for us and our hearts to heal. Every single human's purpose is to heal their hearts because by healing that trauma with their heart and everything that they're experiencing, that is what will heal the world. That is actually what will bring heaven on earth. And that was a loud and clear message I felt like I had immediately following the surgery. That is for sure what I still see is that when we heal, we give everyone around us permission to heal. We are different in the world. The world around us is different. So what can one person do? Like Laurel said, the little things are the big things. The little thing, if you do nothing else but heal your own heart, even if you can be in no contribution to anyone else, you are giving so much to the world.
Thank
That's
you
my
for being here. I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
This is uncommon, but I'm going to stay on after she left because we women are so strong and we carry so much on our shoulders. But to the women who lead, to the women who are always in the front, to the women who are always doing for everyone else, it is so beautiful to be able to relax and just be yourself around other women who are just being themselves. Because we actually don't heal alone, we heal in community. And actually, we can't be our best self by ourselves. So I just want to extend an invitation to anyone listening to this to go to pinkladyposse.com. Join the community if you're a woman over 50 and look up Think, because Think Pink is our inner circle where women get to support one another, encourage one another, and help each other heal. And this is my personal invitation to be familiar with Think Pink and be surrounded by women. Women, women, women who care and women who are all about being real and being supportive and encouraging with each other. And I just want to wish you a happy new year. 2025 was wild, Pink Lady Posse was great. The podcast was born. The opportunity to do a TED Talk was amazing. And then Think Pink started. And so 2026 is a year of month by month themes that lead into growth and becoming. And we want you with us. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, Happy New Year. And I hope it brings things to you you never imagined. Thanks for being a part of our podcast and Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.